What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Gooner channel. And today the transfer window finally opened, and in the last week or so, all of the speculation, of course, has linked Arsenal with a whole host of strikers, particularly Benjamin Šeško. Last week we thought we had the deal done, and then it fell through, and of course everyone was scrambling around trying to find a plan B striker for Arsenal. Now, I'm not sure we are definitely bringing in a striker. I did a video on the different options. But today the news was not so much about players who might be coming in the forward lines, but in a player who looks set to leave. And that is, of course, Thomas Partey. Now, there isn't one concrete news story with sources linking him to a move, but all of the smoke around this is that he is likely to move to Saudi Arabia for a big money move. That big money move said to be something in the region of 25 million, which of course is not what we paid for him 4 years ago. But given just how little he's played in the last couple of years and how injury prone he is, I think would represent really good business for us. Not least because he's earning £160,000 a week, which is a lot of money to pay for a player who barely plays. Now, as I said, there isn't one strong source, so this could be just more of what we went through last summer. The interesting thing for me here is that when he was fit, on the bench for the return leg at Bayern, not used, but played every game after that. And he looked solid and was dependable, but not quite as strong as we're used to. And there were times where people were just finding it too easy to run past him. So I think it's clear that we do need to replace him. If we can get 25 million to put towards another player, then that makes perfect sense. Now, this position is one that I think if we lost Thomas Partey, leaves us really with just Declan Rice and Jorginho. Declan Rice, who will play every match when fit, but has increasingly been used in that sort of left 8 position, and Jorginho, who isn't a player that you'd play every single match. So if Thomas Partey is on his way out, surely we're bringing in somebody to replace him. In this video, I'm going to talk about who we might replace him with and discuss some of those options who we'll be able to see more of in the Euros. So before I get started, please do click like, and if you haven't yet, by all means do subscribe. I'm going to be doing a video every single day of the transfer window and covering the main news stories from the Euros. So who do we bring in if we lose Thomas Partey? Of course, when Thomas Partey came in from Atletico Madrid 4 years ago, it was a big coup. And so much was expected from him. And we've seen plenty of that. 2 years ago, he was one of the standout defensive midfielders in the Premier League. But it's just been tough with injury. He's had some off-the-field issues as well, but principally what we're talking about is a player who doesn't seem to be able to make it through an entire season. It is an incredibly important position in Arteta's system, and we do need a defensive midfielder, somebody who can break up play and keep the ball moving to more creative players. The first big option to replace him, one that I favour, is Douglas Luiz. Aston Villa turned down massive money moves for him that we made before. And whilst it does look like Luiz is on his way out of Aston Villa, it now increasingly looks like he is set to go to Juventus. So that one seems dead in the water. The next big transfer link that has been going on for the last 2 years and then some is Martin Zubimendi, the Real Sociedad player who Mikel Arteta has apparently a lot of admiration for. But the big problem with this is that as time's gone on, he was somebody that was very much on the radar of Barcelona. Hansi Flick at Barcelona is finding that he doesn't necessarily have the transfer money to spend. They're going to have to sell some players as well. He is a defensive-minded midfielder, somebody who can break up play, had a decent season at Real Sociedad, has caught the attention of Barcelona. We know that Barcelona are struggling. They're going to have to sell some players before they bring someone in. And I think the big problem with Martin Zubimendi, as I've said so many times before, is there doesn't seem to be any strong attraction to Arsenal for the player. He has turned down the chance to play for us before. He's talked at length about how happy he is at Sociedad. He's a one-club man to this point. All the reports at the moment suggest that he's keen to stay in La Liga, whether that is ultimately a move to Barcelona or possibly Real Madrid, where there's been some interest. But this one just seems really unlikely to me. And I've said it before, if a player doesn't really want to come to you, it's going to be harder for them to settle in. And a new league he's somebody that I haven't seen that much of. Of course, there is a chance we'll get to see him tomorrow, but he's not a starter for Spain, and of course, he's behind Rodri in the pecking order there. But I think personally that there isn't really much chance of Martin Zubimendi coming. I will, of course, keep you posted as and when that changes, if it changes. More speculation today around Amadou Onana, who's another player that we're going to get to see in the Euros for Belgium. Belgium, pretty strong team on paper, could go some way in this tournament, and he is pivotal in that defensive midfield. He's been playing really okay for Everton. He's a young player. Again, he's not that influential on the game. He's a big player at Everton, and Everton do seem resigned to losing him. So I could see this one happening, but whether he's enough, I'm not saying he's a gamble, but he's definitely not the marquee signing that's going to come. He's not at the level of a Douglas Luiz. But there is increasing speculation that Amadou Onana is the player that we're looking to replace Thomas Partey. And at around £50 million, it's easy to see that this could happen. There's still a long way to go in this, and with the Euros on, nothing's going to happen until July, you wouldn't have thought, and depending on how far Belgium go as well. Then there's my personal favourite, which is Joshua Kimmich. He fell out with Thomas Tuchel, who criticised him openly for not being a good enough defensive midfielder. Those of us who watched if you watched Germany annihilate Scotland today, you would have seen him put in another fantastic performance as right back. He is without question hugely versatile, can play centre back, right back, and I personally think would fit perfectly into Arsenal's team as defensive midfielder. He brings experience. He's a trophy winner. He's 29 years old, and there is a lot of talk about him leaving Bayern Munich. Now, he has decided not to push for a transfer, but Hansi Flick is really keen on bringing him to Barcelona. Again, Barcelona's financial situation means that it's not a deal that they can do quickly, and their first offer to Kimmich was apparently half of what he wanted. The other problem that we have is that he's being courted apparently by Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. Now, it's for one more season at Manchester City. It's not clear to me that he would choose Arsenal over Manchester City or Barcelona. I think his preference is actually to go to Spain. But this is a deal that could get done, and it's one that I would dearly love to see us get done. But with all of the other interest in him from high-profile managers and clubs, it's going to be a tricky one. Now, signing Joshua Kimmich would come at a price. Even if the transfer fee isn't that much, he only has a year left on his contract. As I said, he's 29, but the wages would be high. And I think it's worth it just because what I think we're missing as a club at the moment is that experience to get over the line. And what we're trying to do this summer is catch Manchester City, and they're not going to stand still either. So I think where you go and get a Kimmich, you get proven ability, whereas with an Amadou Onana, you are still talking about potential. So I'm really, really hopeful that this one will go through. But there isn't any other concrete speculation linking us with midfielders at the moment. I'm sure that'll come in the next few days and weeks. Towards the end of the season, there was a lot of speculation that we'd made an approach to Newcastle's Bruno Guimaraes. And of course, Newcastle is said to be looking to offload some players. But they've ring-fenced Alexander Isak. And Eddie Howe was quick to point out that he didn't think that Guimaraes was waving goodbye to the fans in the last match at Newcastle. Is there a chance that we're going to make a more concrete offer for him? And would the price be exorbitantly high? Initially, my reaction to us being linked with him was not great because I thought his shithousery in the game that we played against them where he forearm smashes Jorginho should have been sent off for a red card. I was really opposed to the idea, but as time's gone on, I do think we probably need a few more combative players, and there's no question of his ability in the middle of the pitch, and he's another one of those proven players, but also proven in the Premier League. We're going to get to see him in the Copa America. I'm going to be doing videos around that as well. There's so many great young players to look at in the Copa America. Let me know your thoughts. Would you take Bruno Guimaraes? But, as I said, rumours around him have really died down, and that's another one that would be quite a while given the players' involvement in a tournament. So is there anyone that you think that we could bring into that defensive midfield position? I can't see any way that we would let Thomas Partey leave without replacing him. So maybe there's someone I just haven't thought of yet. And let me know in the comments. And the final thing I wanted to touch on, away from the potential midfielders coming in, was a striker that won't be coming to Arsenal. And I'm personally really chuffed about it because I never really understood what the hype was about. And I am, of course, talking about Ivan Toney. Had one really good season, then got an 8-month ban. Pretty lackluster. When he came back, he scored 4 goals quite quickly, but then hasn't scored again since. It turns out, according to Charles Watts, who's a fairly reliable source and has lots of contacts within Arsenal, that Arsenal were really seriously interested in Ivan Toney and met the player, but just didn't like him. And the personality isn't considered to be a fit for Arsenal. That, with his declining form, I think spells the end of any of the rumours linking Ivan Toney. And in a recent poll I saw, it was only 7% of Arsenal fans who actually wanted to see him come in. How things have changed from January, where we desperately needed a striker. We may still be talking about strikers a lot this summer. I think we're likely to, but it's not going to be Ivan Toney. So that's been the roundup of the news today on the first day of the transfer window. And of course, the first day of the Euros, and what a convincing win it was for Germany. The run-up to the game, I was really looking forward to seeing Florian Wirtz and Jamal Musiala, and sure enough, in the first 20 minutes, they both scored. It was really difficult to get an idea of just how far Germany have come. Of course, their preparations for Euros were less than perfect. Sacking a manager after a string of terrible performances didn't immediately get better for Nagelsmann, but he has done really well since losing to Austria, and I think they're going to be one to watch on home ground, and you think that they will get through. Of course, there is the potential that if England don't top their group, we may well be playing Germany in the next round. And Germany in Germany, I'm hopeful that we don't. It just makes it ever more important that we do top that group. Anyway, lots of football to look forward to tomorrow, and I'm sure more transfer speculation. So keep it tuned to the Gooner channel and subscribe for all the updates. Until I see you tomorrow, be lucky and lots of love.